Hi, this is Sammy. We will be doing some grade 12 math and specifically trigonometry. So stay tuned for that. So here's a trick question. If cosine theta equals 1 over root 2 and theta is not a first quadrant angle, find the exact value of cotangent and cosecant theta. So here, the first thing we have to start off with is to draw where the angle is. So we draw our quadrants, 0, pi, 2 pi, pi over 2, 3 pi over 2. Not that really matters, but what matters here is all students take calculus. Now, if you look at here, the cosine is positive. If the cosine is positive, then it could be only in the first quadrant and the fourth quadrant. Quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, quadrant 4. So since they said the angle is not, theta is not the first quadrant angle, then it must be in the fourth quadrant because the cosine is positive. Now they're telling me that its cosine is 1 over root 2, so which means that is adjacent and that is hypotenuse. So here's my 90 degrees. The hypotenuse is root 2 and the adjacent is 1. Now, you know, this is a 45-degree triangle angle, but that doesn't matter. If you want to find the missing side, so always in Pythagoras, if you finding a side and not the hypotenuse, then you just go the hypotenuse squared minus the given side squared, and that will give you root 2 squared, which is 2, minus 1 squared, which is 1. That gives you square root of 1, which is 1. And therefore, this here, it's 1. But if you only write 1 there and you don't write the negative sign, that's where your answer wouldn't be correct, because now you have to know that this is negative 1 because it's going along the negative side of the y-axis. Now, if you want to solve for these two now, just very simple. Cotangent, theta, and cosecant, theta. You know, cotangent is, its tangent is opposite over adjacent, so the cotangent would be adjacent over opposite. Okay, and of course, we're working from the reference angle here. That's where theta is, and therefore, adjacent is 1 over opposite, which is negative 1. And therefore, the answer for this is just negative 1. And the cosecant is the reciprocal of sine. And since sine is opposite over hypotenuse, then cosecant would be hypotenuse over opposite. Over opposite. So the hypotenuse there is going to be root 2, and the opposite is negative 1. And therefore, the final answer for this is negative root 2. Okay. So here's another question that involves the addition identity for cos. Now we're given sine alpha and sine beta, what they equal, and both of them are acute angles. So that means they're in the first quadrant, or you just draw a triangle with alpha and beta. So I'm going to just draw, since they're acute angles, I'm just going to draw 2 triangles here and say this is alpha, and then the other one, we're going to say this is beta. So alpha, the sine is opposite over hypotenuse, so opposite is supposed to be 3, and that's 5. And sine beta also is given to you as opposite is 7, and the hypotenuse is 25. Now they want you to find cos alpha plus beta. So cos alpha plus beta, it's an addition identity, so I'm just going to expand it. Equals cos alpha cos beta minus sine alpha sine beta. So the common mistake sometimes we see students do is they distribute that cos into the alpha and beta, and they think cos alpha plus beta just going to be cos alpha plus cos beta. That's wrong. This is an addition identity. You go look at your identity sheet and it expands like this. Okay. This is supposed to be beta right there. Okay. Now, I know the signs of alpha and beta, so because they're already given to me. So sine alpha is 3/5. And sine beta, that's times 7/25. But I don't know what cos alpha and cos beta is, because if I look at this, I don't know what the adjacent is here, and I don't know what the adjacent is there. So for this one, I'm just going to use Pythagoras again. As I said, since you're finding a side, you just go to the square root of 5 squared minus 3 squared, which is 9. And that's going to give you square root of 16, which is 4. So now definitely cos alpha now I know, which is 4/5. How about this? Now this here is the same thing. You just do Pythagoras, and it's the square root of 25 squared minus 7 squared, which is 49. Or let me just write 4 squared there so I don't confuse anybody. 7 squared, sorry. Which gives me, and so when you do square root of 25 squared minus 7 squared, if you throw that in your calculator, it's going to give you 24 final answer. So I know, therefore, this is 24. Now, also we know cos beta then is going to be adjacent over hypotenuse, which is 24/25 times right there. And therefore now we have 4 times 24, which is 96/125 minus 21/125, which gives me 575/125. 25 goes into both of them 3 times and 5 times. So the final answer is 3/5 for this one. So here's another question that has a double angle identity right here. Is this cos squared minus sine squared, which is the double angle identity for cos. Now, to be able to do this, you're given that a cos squared pi/8 minus a sine squared pi/8 equals 4√2. Find the value of a. So we're trying to solve for a. To be able to do this, the first thing you need to do, just go ahead and take out a as the greatest common factor. So a, and then we have cos squared pi/8 minus sine squared pi/8 equals 4√2. Now this is the double angle identity for cos 2 theta, which equals cos squared theta minus sine squared theta. So what we want to do, we want to go from this form to this form. So that means it's a cos, and then you double the angle, and the angle here is pi/8 equals 4√2. So if anyone that didn't see how we did this, basically we're going from here to here. So instead of writing cos squared minus sine squared, we could just write cos, but then take the theta and double it. Here theta is pi/8, so I'm doubling the pi/8. That will give me a times cos. That would reduce to cos pi/4, which equals 4√2. Now, if you remember that cos pi/4 is 1/√2, or √2/2 if you wish. If you want to rationalize the denominator, equals 4√2. And then you want to solve for a, so you would just want to multiply both sides by √2/2. So that gives me a equals 4√2 times 2/√2. The √2 will cancel. both of them, and then I'll just get 8. And that's my final answer. So there you go, just a little bit of trig for Math 12 students. Finals are approaching, so I hope this makes sense to you. Thank you for watching as always. Bye-bye.